We're the biggest animal rights group in the country, so we campaign across the spectrum. There is an animal rights doctrine, if you like, which is quite mature, and it's about struggling on behalf of animals for their right not to be systematically abused and molested, mass-produced and killed, etc.
And do you support militancy against people that keep pets?
No, I don't want people hurt or intimidated. I'm a peaceful person. You know, the people who come into animal rights, despite what you read in the press, they're driven by a sense of the pain they feel over exploitation and cruelty. That's what drives us. We've shown enormous restraint now that we're supposed to be terrorists. The modern animal rights movement is over 30 years old. We've killed no one.
I was reading about your supermarket campaign, and I mean, what's the background to all of that? I mean, how did that all start?
Well, somebody approached us, a contact, a supporter, I think, from Wales, and she was distressed. She sent us some ads with pictures of puppies that had been posted, you know, on the notice board of her local supermarket. And it was obvious, you know, animals were being carelessly bred and then flogged, you know, in the supermarket. And it's just not acceptable. Our basic complaint is that animals, pet animals, companion animals, are mass-produced as commodities, irresponsibly, and flogged as commodities, and taken up for invariably the wrong reasons.
When we spoke on the phone, I think you said that pet keeping was like a slave culture. I mean, do you really believe that? I mean,
animals are owned, they're bought and sold, they're bred like slaves. Now, there were many slave owners, or a proportion of slave owners, who were generous to their slaves. And the slaves would have acknowledged it. Then you got others that beat them and neglected them. Now, I know this is a big leap for people, but what was slavery about? It was about the trading in sentient beings for the delectation, for the convenience and the advancement of the people who own them. There was money in it. That sounds like the pet trade. I can hear people visiting your site, if they're bothering to watch this, thinking this is a step too far. People can enjoy animals. They can enjoy the company of animals. They can have them in their homes, go out for walks if they're doggy type or whatever. But they don't have to buy them and prop up businesses that trade in them. I'm a person who enjoys the company of animals. I would forego the company of the animals in my life and my wife's life to stop the breeding, you know, the exploitation, the trading, the commodification, you know, the fetishization of animals. Because we're not a nation of animal lovers. We're a nation of animal keepers, producers and keepers.
For most of the people, not all of them obviously, but most people that keep pets, one, look after them very well and care about them very much, and they make a very important contribution to the lives of those people. No. Now, are you against that?
No. If a person purchases a pet, they're contributing to the problem you just set out. Thousands and thousands of animals in rescue centres, because whether or not they look after the animal, they're propping up a system that commodifies animals and produces surplus. Everyone listening to this debate, if they've got an animal, if they're going to get another animal, it should be from a rescue centre. And then we can talk about the ideology.
If you had a choice, would you stop pet keeping?
I would stop the breeding of animals for pets, certainly.
Well, if animals weren't breeding, there wouldn't be any pets left, would there? I mean,
if I thought that was going to happen, we'd have an urgent conversation about the ending of dogs, cats, hamsters. It's not going to happen quickly. If it did, the unborn dogs and cats and hamsters aren't going to mourn for the life they didn't have. It's about what people want and desire.
I mean, in keeping out in pets yourself, really, I mean, do you enjoy it? I mean, is it a positive thing in your life?
I get great pleasure from the company of my dogs. They're a worry. They're expensive. I've taken them on with my wife because they've been rejected and neglected and abused. You know, many of them start off disturbed because they don't know where the hell they are. You know, and some were physically abused, etc. We've got 7 guinea pigs, again all rejected. We've got a tortoise and various birds. My wife is very good at patching them up.
When we spoke on the phone, I mean, you seem to be totally against pet keeping. I mean, that's your view, really, isn't it?
I am against pet keeping. What I'm for is people who have a concern for animals, a sensitivity, to take on the thousands and thousands of dogs, cats, rabbits, you know, hamsters or whatever, that are abandoned every year and desperate for a home. If they're in a position to do so, because many people aren't, they don't have the time, they don't have the temperament, etc. But if people are in a position to take on an animal, go to a rescue centre. Don't pay someone, and in so doing, encourage further breeding, because when you do that, you're buying into a system that disposes of thousands and thousands of animals every year. You know, thousands. The RSPCA come out with figures, you know, routinely about the thousands and scores of thousands that are dumped with them, and thousands of healthy dogs and cats and other animals are killed every year because there is no home for them. So why are we breeding more?